Hello everyone, this is a video about the potential impacts of thiamine deficiency. As per usual, nothing that I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. So someone posted a question on one of my other videos, and the question reads, would love to see more about, well, it's a video about pandas and pans, the question was, I have pathogenic mutations in my TPK1, SLC19A3, and SLC19A2 genes. Could this have an impact on my system similar to PANS? So PANS being pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric syndrome, and basically this like awful inflammatory condition that affects a young person's, a pediatric patient's brain, cause all types of really wild and wacky symptoms, anxiety, OCD, tics, sometimes just very like violent, erratic behaviors. Like there's a kind of a spectrum of different symptoms that can potentially arise from PANS. Also very closely related to pandas, which is where the PANS is being triggered by the streptococcus bacteria. PANS can be triggered by lots of different things: Lyme bacteria, toxins, mold mycotoxins, heavy metals, different things like that. So it's a really great question. These genes, for folks that aren't familiar with those genes, it's a very niche question. I don't think most folks are familiar with those acronyms. But basically, these are all genes that are related to the thiamine receptors. And so if a person's not able to get thiamine into their cells or utilize thiamine, then that can create a lot of problems, because thiamine, vitamin B1, is really important. I mean, all the vitamins are important. B1 is one of those very important vitamins. Without any of them, we don't live at all. But thiamine deficiency can have really profound symptoms. There's a, the kind of classic symptoms associated with vitamin B1 deficiency is a condition called beriberi, and in certain parts of the world, historically, where there's been a lot of nutrient deficiencies, places where there's famine or malnourishment or what have you, then beriberi can ensue, and it's just a really awful condition. But folks can have these other manifestations of thiamine deficiency, and actually there's a medical doctor from England, if memory serves. Her name is Dr. Chandler Mars. That's Mars with 2 R's, not just 1 R like the planet. And Dr. Mars co-authored a book all about thiamine deficiency. It's this very elaborate book, and kind of goes into like the pathophysiology and different case studies and examples of all these different cases where folks can have like these wild, wacky, crazy symptoms, and they were all rectified by thiamine replenishment. And so it's just an important message, I think, to clinicians to say, hey, make sure we don't forget about those B vitamins. Now, of course, in many cases, the symptoms that a person might have, whether they're these profound neurological symptoms or profound fatigue symptoms, etc., in many cases, they're not related to vitamin B1 deficiency at all. I've seen many times in my practice, folks come in, they're already on B vitamins, they're getting intravenous nutrients, including vitamin B1, and it just hasn't made a difference. And that's why they wind up coming to see me, because they've tried different things, including all these nutrients, and it wasn't a vitamin B1 deficiency. But I have had patients where when we put them on comprehensive nutritional support, like nutrient support, they feel a lot better. And I do have to wonder if in some of those cases, maybe a big part of it was the vitamin B1. My mitochondrial support formula that I've talked about in a number of videos over the course of time. It's a really robust dosage of all the vast majority of nutrients that are required for mitochondrial function. There's a fairly high dose of vitamin B1 in there in its active form, which is called benzphethiamine. And I do have to wonder how many of those cases are benefiting because of the B1. I don't know for sure, but I speculate about that. Maybe for some of them it is important. Dr. Mars was interviewed by one of my favorite podcast hosts, arguably, I think probably my favorite podcast host, actually. And I say that bearing in mind that I have my own podcast, the Overcoming Chronic Illness podcast. So, but I like his podcast better than mine. I've learned so much from it, and that's the Better Health Guy podcast. He's an amazing interviewer. Has amazing guests, like all the best doctors, or many of the best doctors in North America and other countries. And he interviewed Dr. Mars. I'm recording this in July of 2023. He interviewed her sometime maybe late 2022, maybe early 2023. I can't remember now. But anyways, it's a great interview. She talks about this topic in depth, and it's really great to know about. So circling it back to the original question of could mutations in these thiamine receptors have an impact on a person's body similar to PAN? So again, I can't comment on anybody's case specifically over social media, but based on the work of Dr. Mars, based on what I've seen in my own practice, or I should say what I know about the pathophysiology of vitamin B1 deficiency. Again, I don't know how many of my patients have benefited profoundly from vitamin B1 repletion on its own, but to my understanding, and from what Dr. Mars and others have talked about on this topic, an adult patient or a pediatric patient could potentially have notable neuropsychiatric symptoms if they had a functional vitamin B1 deficiency. So whether that's they're not getting enough of the vitamin itself, or they have a receptor issue, and even though there's plenty of vitamin B1 kicking around, it's not actually getting into the cell in adequate amounts, or it's not exerting the physiological effect that it's supposed to be having in the body because of some receptor issues or whatnot. So, and that could be an issue with the receptors, it could be an issue with the enzymes that are for which vitamin B1 is a cofactor. So there could be a few different things that go wrong with vitamin B1 acting in the body the way it's supposed to, and that certainly could manifest in a really notable neuropsychiatric way, which I believe, if memory serves, when Dr. Mars was interviewed by the Better Health guy, whose real name is Scott Forsgren, but he's all about Better Health, and he's a guy, so Better Health guy. She, I believe, certainly talks about neurological issues. There's another colleague of mine whose name I'm blanking on, treats a lot of patients with on the autism spectrum and with Down syndrome, actually, and I heard a great lecture by her several years ago about the importance of vitamin B1, and actually that was one of the lectures that inspired me to really make sure that I had good, robust dosages of vitamin B1 in my comprehensive mitochondrial spore formula. So thank you for the question. I hope that this was useful information. If anybody has any questions or comments on this topic, please post in the comment section below. Otherwise, I will leave it there for now.